That night was supposed to be simple. Brittany Steier had spent the evening with friends, laughing and celebrating. Now all she needed to do was pick up her kids and head home. Her best friend was with her, riding in the passenger seat, both of them feeling a little on edge as they drove through the dark Florida roads. When they pulled into the driveway of the small trailer, something didn't feel right. There were people outside, empty beer cans scattered around, and a heavy tension in the air. Brittany tried to stay calm as she walked toward the door to get her children, but in just a few minutes, everything would go horribly wrong. And what happened next would change everything forever. Brittany Steier was born on June 10, 1989, in the small city of Stuart, Florida. She grew up just a short drive away in Port St. Lucie, where she was raised alongside her older sister, Christy, by their parents, Betsy and Joe. Betsy, a minister, went on to found her own church, while Joe built a career with a development company. Although Brittany's parents divorced when she was around 5, they remained committed to co-parenting, ensuring that both daughters split their time between homes without feeling torn between them. From an early age, Brittany's vibrant personality and warm spirit stood out. As a teenager, she spent her summers volunteering at a church camp in Silver Springs. There, she became known for organizing dance competitions, acting in skits, and taking part in talent shows. Her confidence and ability to inspire others were evident even in those early experiences. In her early 20s, Brittany began working as a cashier at a local Winn-Dixie grocery store. It didn't take long for her strong work ethic and outgoing charm to get noticed. She quickly climbed the ranks, moving from cashier to front-end manager and later to a grocery manager role, overseeing both the grocery and produce departments. Around this time, Brittany's life took a turn when she met Edward June McNeil Harris Jr., a 28-year-old employee at the local Burger King. June, who already had 5 children from 2 previous relationships, might have seemed like a complicated choice. But Brittany's nurturing nature drew her to him. She embraced his children with open arms, treating them as if they were her own. Friends, however, were wary from the beginning. Heather, one of Brittany's closest friends, recalled feeling a deep unease when she first encountered June. Although their introduction was brief, just a quick meeting while Brittany picked up food at Burger King, Heather sensed that something was off. Heather's concerns deepened after she discreetly asked her husband, a police officer, about June. His reaction was instant and severe. Without going into details, he urgently warned that Brittany needed to stay away from him. Alarmed, Heather tried to caution Brittany, but the warnings fell on deaf ears. Brittany defended June fiercely, convinced that others simply didn't understand the bond they shared. Despite the concerns, Brittany's relationship with June deepened quickly. She saw him as someone who brought joy into her life, someone who understood her adventurous, wholehearted nature. It was easy for Brittany to overlook the warning signs, choosing instead to believe in the good she saw in him. By early 2016, just months into their relationship, Brittany learned she was pregnant. The news filled her with excitement. She embraced the idea of becoming a mother wholeheartedly, seeing it as the start of a beautiful new chapter. However, that happiness was soon eclipsed by a devastating development. Brittany went into premature labor at just 5 months, setting into motion a series of events that would ultimately redefine the course of her life. The situation Brittany faced in the hospital was dire. As a first-time mother, overwhelmed and frightened, she needed support more than ever. She reached out to her sister Christy, who rushed to her side, but June was nowhere to be found. Christy frantically tried to reach him, calling his phone, driving to his trailer, pounding on the doors and windows. Hours passed, but June never appeared. Tragically, Brittany miscarried her daughter, a baby she had already named Jade. The loss was devastating. June's absence during that critical moment revealed a side of him that could no longer be ignored. It was a red flag that stood in stark contrast to the image Brittany had tried so hard to believe in. Yet, in a pattern that would repeat itself, Brittany chose to forgive him. She clung to hope and carried on with the relationship. Seeking a fresh start, Brittany moved in March 2016 to live with her father in the city of Bradenton. The move offered her a chance to heal, to build a new life away from the pain and disappointment. She quickly found work as a salesperson at a sign company where her father was employed. Her natural charm and strong work ethic once again won over those around her. But distance did little to sever the bond between Brittany and June. Most weekends, she made the 6-hour drive back to see him, shouldering all the travel and expenses. It was Brittany who invested in the relationship, while June gave little in return, a pattern that would come to define their time together. By 2017, tired of the long-distance strain, Brittany convinced June to move to Bradenton. She found an apartment for them and helped him land a job with her brother-in-law's appliance installation company. But almost immediately, problems surfaced. Though June was capable at the work, his temper often flared, leading to conflicts with coworkers and repeated warnings from his employer. As they settled into their new life, the cracks widened. Brittany's once bright personality began to dim. Her coworkers noticed she had grown quieter, more withdrawn. She started covering up, wearing long sleeves and pants, even during Florida's sweltering summers. When asked, she would brush it off with easy excuses, never letting anyone get close enough to see the truth. Brittany's family saw the changes too. Her mother and stepfather, who had met June early on, sensed his controlling nature. They noticed how Brittany worked multiple jobs to support their household while June contributed little and demanded much. She gave everything she had emotionally, financially, physically. He took and took until there was almost nothing left. Her mother reflected later that Brittany, raised to love unconditionally and see the best in people, believed she could heal the broken parts of June. If she loved him enough, she thought, maybe she could fix him. In February 2018, Brittany discovered she was pregnant. Joy and apprehension collided. She was thrilled at the idea of becoming a mother again, but quietly fearful of what the future might hold. Her fears deepened when she showed up to a family gathering with a dark bruise under her eye, poorly hidden by makeup. When questioned, she claimed she had fallen in the shower, another excuse offered with a tight smile. On March 2, 2018, Brittany gave birth to a baby boy. For a fleeting moment, there was happiness. Their little family seemed complete. But just 3 months later, Brittany learned she was pregnant again. While the news was unexpected, Brittany welcomed it with her usual optimism, throwing herself into preparations for the new baby. In February 2019, she gave birth to a daughter. With 2 young children and a new, larger apartment to call home, Brittany appeared to be building the life she had always wanted. But behind the facade, the emotional abuse intensified. The walls were closing in. Brittany noticed troubling changes in her son's behavior. He would lash out unexpectedly, mimicking the aggression he had witnessed at home, then immediately seek affection. It was a heartbreaking mirror of the chaos unfolding inside their apartment. This realization shook Brittany to her core. She could no longer deny the truth. By staying, she wasn't just risking her own well-being. She was exposing her children to a dangerous, damaging environment. And for Brittany, a mother whose love knew no bounds, that was a cost she could no longer bear. On January 31, 2020, Brittany finally made her decision. That morning, June, who had the day off, announced he was going out with friends around 10 or 11 a.m. Brittany didn't argue. Instead, she quietly packed her belongings into plastic bags, loaded them into her car, and left. She called her sister Christy and asked her to meet in Orlando for a trip to Disney World. On the surface, it was a spontaneous getaway, a chance for the children to experience some joy. But beneath it, this trip was Brittany's first real attempt at breaking free, at reclaiming a sense of normalcy for herself and her children. After the weekend, reality returned. Brittany knew she couldn't go back. She reached out to her parents and asked if she could move back in with them. It was a step toward independence, but it was also a dangerous one. June, unwilling to let her go, began flooding her phone with calls and messages, begging, apologizing, threatening, cycling through every tactic to pull her back. Leaving an abusive relationship is often the most dangerous time for a victim. Brittany's case would tragically prove this to be true. On February 11, 2020, Brittany walked into the Sarasota Police Department to file a report against June. She detailed a terrifying incident that had occurred just days earlier. After she left him, Brittany had agreed to meet June briefly to pick up belongings from their shared apartment. What was supposed to be a short civil exchange turned into a nightmare. Inside the apartment, June held Brittany at gunpoint for hours. He threatened her life, threatened the lives of their children, and painted horrific scenarios, killing Brittany and the children, or killing Brittany and calling her father to come collect them before ending his own life. The terror Brittany endured during those hours was unimaginable, and even more devastating was the fact that her young children witnessed it all. Following her report, June was arrested at the Sarasota Police Department. He refused to answer questions and demanded an attorney. He was booked into the Sarasota County Jail, facing charges of aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and illegal possession of a firearm, a serious offense for a convicted felon. For Brittany, June's arrest should have been the beginning of a safer, freer life. But in a heartbreaking decision so common among survivors of abuse, Brittany dropped the charges, persuaded by promises from June's family that he would get therapy, that they would oversee his treatment. Brittany was torn between her fear and her compassion. She later confided in her father that she couldn't bear the thought of their children growing up with their father locked away for life. Her decision was driven by hope, a hope that tragically would not be rewarded. In the months that followed, Brittany poured herself into rebuilding her life. She focused on her children, worked hard, and began reconnecting with friends she had drifted away from during her relationship with June. Her Facebook posts showed a woman rediscovering herself, smiling, attending gatherings, laughing again. It was clear to everyone who knew her that Brittany was on the road to healing, but June was never far behind. Despite everything, Brittany allowed June limited contact with the children. She wanted them to have a relationship with their father, even if it meant treading carefully herself. June continued his pattern: apologies, promises, manipulation, all aimed at pulling Brittany back into his orbit. On July 18, 2020, Brittany traveled to Crawfordville to attend a friend's engagement party. Excited to fulfill her role as maid of honor, she dropped the children off with June, planning to pick them up the next day. For a while, Brittany allowed herself to enjoy the night, laughing, celebrating, surrounded by friends who were happy to see her smiling again. But as the evening wore on, a message from June arrived. He demanded that she come pick up the children immediately. The change in Brittany was instant. Her face, moments ago full of joy, became tense and worried. She turned to her friend Heather for support and asked her to come along as she went to retrieve the children. Neither of them could have imagined what was about to unfold. The drive was tense. Brittany was visibly nervous, her usual bright demeanor replaced by a heavy, anxious silence. They arrived at June's trailer around 10:30 p.m. The property was cloaked in darkness, lit only by the van's headlights. As Brittany pulled into the driveway, they could see a group of people gathered near an above-ground pool. Beer cans and empty bottles littered a makeshift table, evidence of an ongoing party. Brittany approached the trailer door. June opened it, holding their infant daughter in his arms. With Brittany's little boy trailing behind, the exchange appeared calm at first. Heather watched from the passenger seat as Brittany took the baby and began securing her into the car seat. Then everything changed. Without warning, June pulled out a firearm. In an instant, gunfire shattered the quiet night. Heather, acting on instinct, jumped into the driver's seat. The side door of the van was still open. She could hear the children screaming in the back. Throwing the van into reverse, she tore down the dirt road, desperate to get them to safety. Moments later, Heather pulled over, her voice trembling as she made a frantic 911 call. 911. Hey, I am with my friend and we're down by it and he just got hurt. Dispatcher, okay. What do you mean he got? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. How exactly did he get hurt? Heather, he shot her. We went to pick up her kids and he came out and was acting really weird and he started shooting at her. Dispatcher, okay, and he shot yeah, okay. I have one of her kids with me. Heather, okay. Oh, the door is open, crap. God, I don't know her code. Dispatcher, yeah, her sister. Heather, all right, is she conscious? Where did she get shot at? Dispatcher, I don't know how long left 'cause I have my child with me too. I'm trying to get to her sister. Heather, she's still there. Dispatcher, yeah, she's still there. Heather, I didn't know what else to do. Like the van door went shut. I got to pull over. Dispatcher, hold on, baby. Ma'am, on the road right there. Heather, okay, hold on, baby. Let me close the van. Amid the chaos and confusion, she struggled to explain what had happened. That Brittany had been shot, that the children were with her, and that they had fled for their lives. Back at the scene, June Harris fled in his vehicle. Police units responding to Heather's call quickly spotted a green car speeding away. A pursuit began. June's driving was erratic, turning aimlessly through parking lots, doubling back on roads as if he couldn't decide where to run. The chase ended when June pulled over near Spring Creek Highway. He made no attempt to resist as officers approached and took him into custody. Meanwhile, detectives returned to the scene Brittany had fled from. There, on the ground near the trailer, they found Brittany's body. She had suffered a gunshot wound to the head. Nearby, a baby bottle lay abandoned on the dirt, a stark and heartbreaking reminder of the two young children now left motherless. The news of Brittany's murder devastated her family and sent shock waves through the community. It was hard to reconcile the vibrant, giving young woman they had known with the brutal reality of her death. In the weeks that followed, more chilling details emerged. Investigators discovered that earlier that evening, June had sent Brittany a series of aggressive text messages. He had demanded sex from her as a reward for looking after the children during the bridal shower. When Brittany didn't respond as he wanted, his messages grew angrier, revealing a dangerous, escalating rage that would culminate in murder. June Harris was charged with first-degree murder, child neglect, fleeing and eluding law enforcement, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. His trial began on December 16, 2022. Despite the defense's efforts to raise doubts, the evidence against him was overwhelming. Text messages, witness accounts, surveillance footage, and forensic evidence all pointed to the same conclusion. On December 21, 2022, the jury delivered its verdict, guilty on all counts. June Harris was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, along with 3 consecutive 15-year sentences for the additional charges. For Brittany's family, the verdict brought a measure of justice, but no sentence could bring Brittany back. Her children would grow up without their mother, and her family would carry the weight of her absence forever. Brittany's story became a sobering reminder of the unseen battles victims of domestic violence often face, and the devastating cost when their cries for help go unheard.